Welcome to Nestology. We are your hosts. I'm Jessica.
And I'm Shelly.
And today we have a special guest, Alex Murray with Unleash You Coaching. She is joining us today just to, give us a little bit of a coaching session for us, Shelly. I think we needed
Absolutely.
a little bit.
And what a perfect time. It's, still January, right? It's still January, first of the year, and we all want to start off on the right foot.
We just did an episode on goal setting, and we talked about our mindset kind of being shitty.
Yeah,
Excuse the language.
Yes. So like the wheel of life, looking at that, Alex, like we were talking about how balanced are we? And I felt like my lowest one, and Jessica, I think yours was too, was mental.
So we brought you in for, our own coaching session. So welcome.
That's perfect.
Alex.
Thank you so much for having me. The Wheel of Life is one of my favorite tools. So I'm glad that you already did that.
Yes.
I know, I love
That's
it.
awesome.
Because then you can identify, like, okay, where do you have a flat tire in your wheel of life? What do I need to focus on? And this is the first time, because I think I have done this for, oh my goodness, probably at least 15 years. And this is the first time I've ever done it to where, like, my mental state was the lowest score that I've had.
Yeah, I think a lot of people will definitely relate to that for sure coming out of 2025. And I think people are hopeful about 2026, but it's already starting off pretty tough. I'm not going to lie.
I will say same here.
Correct.
I am claiming January to be part of 2025. We are not in 2026 yet. It starts over in February.
It does. February 17th, actually. There's a
I
date for
heard
it.
the greatest thing too, and I can't remember who said it. It was a celebrity. I watched too many reels, but they were saying like, why do we start the year off in January when like when nature is sleeping? It should be spring, right? So like it should be like March 1st. I think it was James Vanderbeek, the guy from Dawson's Creek. Yeah. He was just like, that's crazy. He's like, I'm going to officially start New Year's like March 1st. Like when spring is starting, that's when the New Year should be.
That.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I might adopt that too.
I know. I think that's a great time. Like nature's sleeping right now, right? Like nature's resting and sleeping. We're all trying to get at it. And like maybe we should start with nature instead of going against it.
Right.
Perfect. I love it.
So for anyone, and I know you're a life coach, you focus more on business, but for anyone that's new to coaching, can you describe what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So I always say the easiest way to describe a coach, we're not therapists, so we don't focus on your past or your traumas or anything like that. Not that it can't come up or not that it doesn't, those things don't hold you back. And we're also not a mentor. A mentor is somebody who basically tells you how they did it and helps you replicate it, right? Gotcha. So a coach is somebody, I always say, like, think about like you're in a car and we're going to sit passenger. We're going to sit next to you. We're going to have deep discussions with you and figure out what's holding you back and help you navigate whatever goal you're working on, whatever situation you want to make progress in, and help you determine what, those turns are going to be or what that destination is going to be. So I'm kind of there to hold your hand, but I'm not going to tell you exactly how to do it. I'm here to sit passenger with you. And that's kind of why I'm called Unleash You Coaching. I want to unleash your best self. So that's what a coach does. They should sit passenger, and if they're not, they're doing a little bit different than what coaching should be.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you mentioned the therapist because I was thinking about you, and I was like, you almost act more like a therapist in some ways. And as I've gotten to know you and talking to you, you've talked about not just giving like checklist of things, but digging to the why and seeing people as like whole humans, not just, especially if you're on business coaching, not just looking at the business, but looking at the whole person. So why is that important to?
So I think when you look at the person as a whole, you're looking at what's below the surface. So it's kind of like an iceberg, right? Like when you look at somebody, you just see what's there and that they're sitting right in front of me. If that's all that I'm looking at, then I'm just there probably trying to solve a problem when there's so much going on below the surface. Right? Whether there's fears going on, whether there's something holding them back, whether there's anything that they feel like they're not worthy of, or imposter syndrome showing up for them. There's so much more below the surface. And if I'm not paying attention to the person as a whole, then we're going to miss the breakthroughs. We're going to miss the entire journey that I can take them on as a coach. And that's what I'm trained to do. I'm trained to deeply listen. Most of my training was spent on deepening my listening skills. So I think most people even just sit down with me in general. That's why they like it ends up being like a session with me. They're like, oh, she listens really great. That's what I've been trained to do. And I've always kind of been that way naturally. I've just elevated those skills. So like, yeah, looking into the person as a whole is like the only way you can really do deep coaching.
Yeah.
No, I absolutely agree. Yeah, it's the balance, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned, so when people come to you and you're going below the surface, what typically do they think that they need help with when they first come to you? And how is that different than what you actually end up finding?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So typically they want an accountability partner, or they just want me to tell them what to do next, what decision to make, or how to do it. And I always say that the world is already full of the how to. You can Google how to do anything. You can get the list. You can ask all the AI generated, how do I do this? How do I create a client list? How do I get over this fear? How do I write a 30-second commercial? How do I, really do anything? How would I do a painting? You can really Google anything you want to, but that's not the problem. The problem is why not? Why are you not getting to your goals? Why are you not accomplishing the things that you want to accomplish? And that's where coaching sits.
And that's really deep.
Yeah.
I think
The what not or why not?
Yeah.
The why not? Why are you not doing those things? Because, and I know I can speak about myself, like there are things I know I should be doing and I'm not. And sometimes, you get I just don't wanna. And sometimes that extra little push and having somebody acknowledge that they know that's what you're doing is like, okay, I need to stop that.
Yeah. I sit as kind of that reflection. So like if you even say like, I don't want to, I'm going to ask you like, what is going on that you don't want to, right? We're going to dig below a little bit beneath the surface of like, what's behind the I don't want to, and what's holding you back on that. So that's my favorite. That's where the breakthroughs come from.
Absolutely.
That's the part
deep questions, how they ask like, they keep asking and asking, what is that called? When you go like 7 questions deep.
Yeah, like the 7 layers.
The real reason why.
Mm-hmm.
And then you start crying because the real reason is not at all what you started out saying.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's that iceberg effect, right? There's the surface, right? And then it's what's below it. Yep.
So in those cases, what often do you see as being more of the root cause? When people say that they don't know why they feel stuck?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all experience is that imposter syndrome. Mm-hmm. And it comes in many forms. And most of the time it's perfectionism. There's usually some sort of fear holding them back, disappointment holding them back, or just fear, or not fear, but like, am I enough to do that? There's so many things that like we don't even realize that these stories in our heads that we're telling ourselves that prevent us from going to that next step. Fear of success, fear of all those things, fear of even the work, and then just breaking that down so that we can move forward in our goal setting and the things that we want to accomplish in life. So that's what I see probably the most.
You tell yourself, or maybe that you've heard your whole entire life. And so I feel like sometimes it gets really deep, It's like if you were told as a kid, basically, or at least felt like, oh, I'm not worthy, you tend to carry that on with you into adulthood, and that can be like one of those root cause kind of things that you don't even realize is coming out in your...
Absolutely.
Well, you mentioned imposter syndrome a couple times, and I know I've struggled with that. Have you struggled with that, Shelley?
Yes, I have.
So why do you know why this is such a common thing? And I'm actually curious if you see this more with women versus men.
That's a really good question.
That's a good question.
I know a lot of women who have that.
Wow.
I'm going to say I'll talk about the women versus men part. I'm going to say yes. And I think men have it too. I think they just have the ability to overcome it just a little bit more depending on what what's coming up for them. I still think they have it. I think women have a lot more on them. I think they have a lot more on their plate to overcome, especially in that perfectionism from the way that they look, from the way that they dress, from the way they have to act and be in society. I don't think men have as many barriers. It's probably a ratio of 1 to 5. I kind of feel like maybe even more, so I think it's just, and being in spaces where I think men can show up in spaces more readily and easier than women can sometimes. We have to fight for it just a little bit more. So I think that imposter syndrome shows up for a lot of people because we have something underneath the surface that makes us believe that we're unworthy of being there, of having it. So like in y'all's situation, like even just having a house, asking for it, seeing if it's available to us, asking for that raise, asking for permission to do something that we wouldn't normally do, or showing up in a space that we didn't think that we could before. There's all these excuses. And so what shows up is imposter syndrome, of, am I worthy of being there? Can I do this? Oh, everyone else does it better than me. When the truth is we're all just figuring out, like we really uncovered the ugly mask and we're all just figuring out nobody knows what they're doing. Some of us just are able to put it aside and go do it better than others, and so I always say the cure to most of this is just action. If you just take some action, you can pretty much cure most imposter syndrome or being stuck. It doesn't matter what it is. It can be a very tiny, small action. But action is pretty much the cure to everything because you can't wait for confidence to go do anything. It doesn't come first. It comes after the action. So yeah, that's if you ever coach with me, you get really tired of me saying you got to take some sort of action.
Well, I had asked about the men versus women because I've seen it a lot. I have so many friends where we've talked about this, and I'm lucky to have support. Shelly being one of them here. Like when I was
for each other.
Yes, when talking about opening my own brokerage, that was a more recent thing, and I kept saying, "But I'm not that person. Like that's not for me. I'm not good enough to have my own brokerage." And then I have friends here who are cheering me on and pushing me.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? You're the perfect person for that.
But then very rarely, and I don't know if it's just them not expressing it, not sharing, but I don't hear as many men say, "Oh, I could never do that. I'm not good enough for something."
Yeah.
You don't hear that. And I think too, women, I've heard it's called the human giver syndrome. Like I think women in general, I think, tend to be more people pleasers.
Yep.
Than men do.
Yep. Yeah.
So that sneaks in a little bit more because we don't want to disappoint people.
Yep.
That's true.
I agree. I think that, like you said, Jessica, I think like men, if they wanted to start something, they're just like, okay, I'll go try. And women, we consider a lot. But I think we're also packing a lot too. If you have a family, if you're married, there's just so much more to consider. And it feels riskier. It feels more vulnerable. And I don't think it's always true. But I think like men aren't as scared as fail. They fail. They just kind of dust themselves off and like, oh, let's go try the next thing. Right. And for women, I think it's a lot different. I think it feels a lot different. I feel like we maybe don't feel like we get as many chances to fail. It's like we have to get it right the first time. We have to show up perfect and do it right the first time. So I think it's just like it's a lot harder. It's a lot harder. The barrier to entry is harder, or at least it feels that way.
Right. Well, and it's interesting how you were mentioning this in other areas of life, not just as a business owner or in business, but like you said, buying the first home or something. And I see that even more if they're the first in their family to buy a home or the first in their family to go to college, like that they feel already held back. Like that's not something that they should be able to do because the rest of their family didn't do it. So I'm sure you see that with your coaching as well.
I do. And even me personally, I would say the first time I bought a home, I had no idea. My family and we were in a rental situation in Frisco. And we thought it would take us years to save up because we were too scared to ask. So we're just going to save like pack rats, and just put money away, make sure we had enough so we would like financially look perfect on paper when it was time. And then we ended up getting kicked out of our rental home, and it was 2016. And we had 30 days to figure out. It was like summer, a month before school starts, 3 kids, and we had 30 days to figure out what we were going to do. And we were lucky enough to find a really good realtor who pointed us to a lender after we've been rejected by the banks. And it was an independent lender. And she was like, it was a Sunday. I'll never forget it. She's like at the airport. And she was like, oh yeah, just give me your information. I got nothing else better to do. And let me see what I can do. And a couple hours later, she calls, she goes, yeah, I got you. This is what we can do. Go look for this kind of house. And I mean, she just told us exactly what we need to do. In less than 30 days, we found a house. And we were, in our heads, we were still probably 4 or 5 years away from even approaching the subject of like looking for a realtor, looking for a lender to get a house. That's how far out we thought we were. And if we had just asked the question, we probably could have been in a house a lot sooner, but we were too scared. So, yeah.
I love that story.
It's a little,
well, because also, I mean, just from a lender's perspective, right? Honestly, nobody is perfect. There is no perfect situation. So talking to somebody sooner than later makes all the difference in the world. And it sounds like you got a good one.
Yeah. Yeah. And now I think we were rejected by 3 banks. And so we're like, oh no, we're screwed. We thought we're done. And our realtor was like, no, try my friend. She's amazing. She will get y'all taken care of. And we're just like, okay, we'll go get rejected one more time and, feel awful just one more time. But she took care of us and got us into our very first home. And we've been in a great situation ever since then. And we're so grateful to that lender.
Yeah. Getting a good one out there.
Yeah.
It's a little off topic, but it was just funny because my friend and I were talking last night about how sometimes we're a part of these moments. You said it's something you'll never forget. Like you can picture it all and the day of the week and everything. I mean, that lender probably has no idea that was something so important to you that you're holding on to that memory. So it is funny how sometimes we're a part of something that we don't realize that someone's holding on to that one moment.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I will say our lender and our realtor absolutely do know, because when we sold that house and bought our new house, we used them again because of that situation. We didn't go anywhere else. We're just like, absolutely. And they helped us once again figure out how to get to our next house and our next level, and we knew exactly what we're going to do, and we trusted them, and we gave them the next sale again. So yeah, they definitely know our story. They're like kind of family to us at this point.
Absolutely.
They know all of our finances, so they might as well be.
You were saying that people are worried about coming to you. There's a lot of fear there, and I think it's because of revealing so much, because that's a very personal thing with their finances. So I think a lot of it does come down to fear. They don't want you to know all the details of all the things that they've done. They feel like they're going to be judged.
Oh my goodness, there is no judgment whatsoever, but the more I know, the better I can help. So yeah, I just say dump it all on your lender. And tell them everything, even if it's stuff that I can't do anything about, but at least I know what the situation is, and then I can help, much better. It's better than something popping up down the road, like in the process. Just tell them everything, and then we can lead and guide you and get you there faster.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, with me, it was like that mindset. If we're talking about like mindset, it was like there was fear, there was shame, around the finances at the time. And I highly recommend just, not fearing that as much and just asking the question. Like I had wished I'd asked the question years before.
Yeah.
That's what we're there for.
Well, like you were talking earlier, that you had mentioned the different types of fear, success. I want to talk about that one because that one is an interesting one to have fear of, but I mean, the fear of change, that's a huge change. The fear of rejection or failure and it not working out. So there's a lot, but the success one I am curious about. Do you see people actually, because I don't think I fear success. So there's people out there that do.
Yeah, absolutely. I see it all the time, and it usually shows up, and you'll see it in, especially with entrepreneurs, and I work with a lot of them, is that they will start the work, but they won't finish it, right? They know that they need to go get clients, but they'll go and either start another business and they'll never finish that first one. They just keep, I always say, like shiny object syndrome. Yeah. or when they get really close, that there's like some sort of sabotage there that happens for them where, it starts to feel like success. And sometimes that is, it can come down to as simple as you don't even know what that feels like. And so that's scary. Sometimes the fear of success is like, oh no, I have to do the work. And doing like knowing that now you actually have to do all of that work, that can be a lot for somebody to all of a sudden realize they have to take that all on. Or it's that feeling of the finances, even though you would think like, who would be scared of making that much money? But you might have some mindset of what you think a person is who has that kind of money. Are they a good person or a bad person? If you have a lot of money, if you associate that with being bad, you might go like, I don't want to be that kind of person. So you sabotage. There's actually a lot of reasons people sabotage themselves when they get to that point. Sometimes it's being in the limelight, having people depend on them. They don't want all that pressure. So when the pressure comes on, it's like, whoa, it's too much. Even though it might be something they're asking for, there's always something below the surface just going like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I don't know if I can handle this. So that's where a coach can kind of step in and be like, let's figure out how to do this. Let's figure out how to break it up into small steps. Let's, dip the toe in the water. Let's figure out what that story is that you're telling yourself in your head that you can't do this. When you can, you just have a story that's happening that's keeping you from getting to that next level.
So true. I have a really kind of strange story. It has to do with a coach many, many years ago. And it's like I felt like my root theme was I'm not worthy, right? And so I remember, I don't know why I was telling him this, but I was going to get a pedicure, okay? So I'm going to get a pedicure, and I don't know why it came up, but it was like I was going to get a regular pedicure, and he's like, why aren't you getting the spa pedicure? Like I could afford a spa pedicure, but there was something, I was like, why would I do that? And he's like, you don't think you're worth it? And I just remember having this whole in-depth conversation over a spa pedicure, and I ended up like, I've never gone back. It's like now I just always get a spa pedicure, but it was a mindset thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That makes sense.
I had a coach one time. I ended up like crying half the call, but I mean, we barely knew each other and did the why. And then she's like, tell me about any childhood traumas around money. And I was like, how far in depth getting, but really getting, like you said, to that root cause of how we view money and associate money. So I guess that leads to my next question is about breakthroughs. So what is that like? What do you see when you have a client experience a breakthrough?
I think I'll tell a story first. So this wasn't even a client. So I do what's called strategy sessions or discovery sessions where people kind of find me. And so it's like a free session so they can experience coaching before we contract or before they decide to coach with me. And so I had this gentleman on and he did sales. He had a sales team and he'd made it up pretty high. And the reason he was kind of reaching out to me is because he's like, I just can't do it anymore, right? I have the sales team. I know what to do. I'm really skilled at it. I'm really, really great at it. And so after kind of asking him some questions, he kind of lets me know that he'd had this other business and it had kind of gotten taken away from him and it went the wrong way and things were promised to him. And so now he's on a new team. He's got some youngins and he's trying to he's like, I don't want to teach them anymore. I don't know what my problem is but I'm really good at this. So why can't I do it? And after digging down, below the surface with him, realized that he was disappointed. He was living with so much disappointment over the previous work because he should have made all this money. He should have been at the top. And now he's starting over with a new team, working his way up. And so he's that was the breakthrough. That was what was holding him back from being top sales, teaching his team. He was just so disappointed.
Wow.
And when he realized that that was holding me back from helping my team and helping me move forward in what I want to build, because I have to deal with all of this disappointment that I have of what was supposed to happen and where I'm supposed to be right now. And when I see my clients do that, it's not only do I grow as a human being, going seeing somebody realize that and going oh, now I see I like, it's like a veil always lifts over my eyes. Like now that I see that like there's something else underneath that surface, like I learned something, right? And I can almost like, I feel like now I can like see it faster in other people, but like I get so much fulfillment seeing them unlock something because he was just stuck, like pounding his head against his desk. Like, why can't I do what I love and what I know how to do? And he just couldn't see the why. And that's like, to me, the beautiful part of being a coach. I'm that mirror, that says, because you get stuck in your own head. You're talking, in circles, and you're telling your same stories and you can't see what's happening. You can't tell what's happening anymore because you're only speaking to yourself. And so having a coach allows you to have somebody to reflect back what you're saying and just ask those like couple clarifying questions so you can just go a little bit beneath the surface and unlock something. It's the best feeling. It is absolutely the best feeling.
I love that. And, well, that's why I wanted you here, because you're amazing at what you do, and I love your passion for it. Because well, I'm sure I can speak for Shelley here too, but we do the same thing when we're so excited for someone and get to be a part of that. That's just so special.
Yeah, I would imagine y'all get to coach too. Y'all coach a lot of people through the process.
Yeah, I joke around that we're part therapists.
We
so
are.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you are too. Helping people. I know you said you're not a therapist, and that's not what this is about, but I feel like you do have a mini therapy session, because I'm sure that was so eye-opening for him.
I know, like, I think about the therapy side of my job, and it's like, I have a passion for working with single women, because I am one. And so a lot of them are just coming out of a divorce and they don't know, what the future holds and everything. So I feel like that's like one of the things I do love to help with, as far as like letting them know, like, hey. And I did want to ask you something about that too. It's like, do you find like coaching single people versus married people, do you have to do different things for that? Is it a different mindset or process?
So it depends on what they're working on. I've come close to almost coaching couples in business, but I feel like when I coach, especially because I do business coaching, I always tell my clients that I leave space for the personal as well as the business. So you might come in and we're working on this big goal to increase your sales or to set your business up and make sure you have everything that you need, or just to find more passion and purpose within your business or whatever it is that you came in looking for. But I'm also here when that personal side, especially moms, that personal side comes on through because it affects your day to day in your business, whether it is the kids, whether it is the significant other, the household, that personal life affects your business. No matter how hard you try to separate the two, if you're an entrepreneur, they're going to come colliding almost every day. So I always leave room for that. If it doesn't become a quarter of our sessions, I'd be shocked. If we're not trying to figure out a way to cope with like what is happening at home so that I can be more successful in my business. So I think it absolutely affects both.
So something that I notice people saying a lot is about whether it's like intuition or allowing things to happen. You experience that?
That's a great question. So I see two things exactly like that, where they're really connected with their intuition, and they like to lean on it, or they're completely disconnected from their intuition. They're like, I don't even know what I like, right? It might be the way they were raised. It might be their background, so if they're not connected to it, then we find ways to connect back to it. And that might be just simple tasks of like a daily activity of like, what did you like today? What did you enjoy today? Until they start connecting back to it. But to answer your question, I always say that like you start maybe with your intuition, that's that gut feeling. Like you should trust it. You should go, okay, my gut's telling me yes, no, this feels good. This doesn't feel right for me. But you shouldn't rely on the feeling, because you should, after the feeling, then you get to your logical self. Then you have to make a more logical decision based off like what's right for the situation. But if your gut just says, absolutely not, this feels dangerous, this is feel good, I mean, obviously don't go that direction. But I don't think you should always like completely rely on your gut. Like, oh, I don't know if I should go after this thing, or I should wait until my gut feeling is 100%, because you'll always kind of like that's kind of shooting in the dark. That leaves you without any control.
Yeah.
And when you can tap into your more logical self and your intuition, you make a stronger decision for yourself than just relying on one or the other.
Gotcha.
I feel like I've had a counseling session.
I know.
Coaching session. Sorry, not counseling, but it is. I feel great.
Are y'all big fans? I don't know if you've ever heard of Jay Shetty. Okay, so that's who I was trained by. That's where I got my certification through.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so he has a coaching school. So a lot of my philosophies are from him. I listen to him all the time. I just listened to his podcast with Tony Robbins. So if you love Tony Robbins, I mean, I can't think of a better pair to.
Right.
That was my podcast I was listening to this morning. So highly recommend. So yeah.
Do you have any suggestions if any of our listeners are feeling stuck with something, with a decision that they need to make? What is like a small step that they can do to get out of that?
I say two. Well, there's actually three. The first thing I'm going to say is take action. Any action will get you out of any feeling of stuckness. So if you are feeling anxiety, are you feeling like you're not making any progress, or you don't know what to do next, take an action. It really doesn't matter if it's social media, buying a home, thinking about buying a home, starting a business, going out to a networking group. Doesn't matter what it is, just take an action and you'll start feeling unstuck. If you're working on a goal and it feels like too much, I always say break it down to smaller goals. Like usually we're a little bit too ambitious and we have this giant goal, and there's nothing wrong with it. Love goals, chef's kiss to them. I'm a very ambitious person myself, but always break it down to smaller, more bite-sized pieces. I always say, like, I'm a runner, so I always give running examples, which might annoy some people, but if your plan was to go out and run a mile every day and that just feels like I can't do that, then go out and run a quarter of a mile and be okay with that. That's what you got done. Because getting something done is better than getting nothing done at all of your goal. And then lastly, celebrate the journey and not just the ending. When we are looking always towards just the end goal, we think that that's like going to bring us all fulfillment, all joy, when really it's the journey in between.
Absolutely.
That's where all the lessons are learned. That's where even the mistakes are made. That's where like the fun is actually had. And usually that ending lasts about a second. That's where you get the medal. That's where you get the award. That's where you get the raise. And then 24 hours, you're back at your job, right? Like you buy the house, now you're moved in and you're done, right? But it's the process in between. That's where all the joy actually lies. And it's not actually in the fulfillment at the end of the goal. So that would be my 3 suggestions.
Good advice.
It makes me think of that. What is that Adam Sandler movie where he like can fast forward through the difficult stuff and he ends up missing so much? It makes me think of that. Like, because even though that was so long ago, but that's just what popped into my head.
Oh my gosh, that's
Yeah.
good. Yes.
Because even though some of it's not pleasant, we miss that experience. So
true.
Yeah. And give yourself like that praise too. Like when you accomplish it, I don't know if you listen to Mel Robbins, she gives herself the high five, when she accomplished something. Like just if you plan on doing something that was a big task and you only got 10% of it done, celebrate the 10%. You still got 10% done. Don't beat yourself up for the 90% that didn't get done because, maybe you were only capable of 10% that day. And that is still better than nothing. So I'm all for celebrating whatever you can get done, even if it's like minimal, because it's still better than nothing.
That's awesome. I love that.
I do too. Great advice.
Oh. Well, I want to talk about your podcast because you have a podcast too. Can you share about?
Yes. So me and my good friend Susan Trissetti have a podcast called Breaking Up with Corporate. And we came up with this because our story, but we were meeting other entrepreneurs in the area who had the exact same stories of basically breaking up with corporate, leaving their 9-to-5 corporate jobs, and going into entrepreneurship. And so we wanted to tell these stories of people who have done this successfully, messily, everything in between, right? So that if anybody is interested in what that process is like and how they did it,
Right.
that they could hear these stories, because I think everyone does it differently, and their backgrounds are also different too. And so we've had men, women, young, old now come on from different countries who've come to America and started these businesses too. And so it's basically their stories of how they left corporate, come into entrepreneurship, and the pivot and how they did it and what they recommend. And because if we can make that easier for one more person to make that decision, or if they're sitting there at their 9 to 5 going like, how do you do that? How do you make that jump? Or can I make that jump? Or am I allowed to make that jump? Am I worthy enough to make that jump? And they hear somebody else's story and go like, I can do that. That's my situation. Those are the stories we want to tell.
Well, as an entrepreneur, like, you feel isolated. You're starting something on your own and you're by yourself. So having others, if you have a support group, that's amazing. But yeah, hearing other people's stories. So I love that you guys are doing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
I'll put a link to your podcast in our show notes so you guys can check that out too. And I assume you guys are on all the platforms, Spotify, Apple.
So we're just on Spotify and YouTube right now, and it's breaking up
Okay.
with corporate. So hopefully that's easy for everyone to remember. But you can definitely find us there for right now.
I do too.
Oh.
That's awesome.
Well, I'll have a link in there so you guys can find it. But yeah, and then I'll put it on our socials too. So for our listeners, you can find us Nestology Podcast on Facebook and Instagram.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Alex. Loved having you.
Thank you,
And
Shelley.
all
Thank
for-
you, Jessica.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you all for joining us, where we help you make the best of your nest.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.